So $16 billion of a black hole that universities are facing at the moment. How do you come to that figure?
Look, they're very sobering figures, aren't they, Peter? Just like everyone in the community is suffering, so are universities. Our problem is the downturn in students being able to get here just because of border closures. So many international students start their studies in second semester. That's coming up quite soon, and many of those students simply won't be able to get here. That's a continuing sort of pipeline loss. So the kids who can't start first year this year won't be doing second year next year, third year the year after. So that's why we're staring down the barrel of a 4-year loss at a total of $16 billion.
So that $18 billion that the Education Minister outlined last time we were chatting a couple of weeks ago, that's not enough to save it?
No, look, that is very welcome, and that guarantees domestic funding. Domestic and international funding are quite separate, the way the Australian system works, so that's very welcome. That means we know we've got funding for domestic students, which is so important, but it doesn't make any difference to the international money.
In your most recent conversations with Dan Tehan, are you making any progress? How is it going?
Look, they're good conversations, and they're conversations that are held quite frequently. I'm not quite sure why this meeting got quite so much publicity, but certainly they're good ongoing conversations. We know we need to do two things. We need to make sure that universities are ready when borders open so we can welcome our international students back into the country, but also we need to have a serious conversation about how it is we deal with increasing demand. We're getting signs of increasing demand from Australian students who want to study instead of standing on the dole queue.
Not all universities qualify for JobKeeper. How much difference is it making at the moment?
In fact, almost no universities qualify for JobKeeper, Peter, and that's a problem. It's a problem that universities have effectively been cut out of the... yes, just a few private ones. There have been some changes made by government to actually actively exclude universities, and that is a problem. It's a problem that universities don't have access to the broad stimulus packages. A university job is really like any other job, a university worker like any other worker.
You had warned that a few weeks ago, and this was widely publicised, that there could be as many as 21,000 people who could lose their jobs in the university sector. And we have had the news in the past few weeks of staff cuts at Central Queensland University and La Trobe University as well, amongst a few others. Is that 21,000 forecast, Catriona, still on track?
Look, certainly 21,000 is at risk, Peter, by the end of this year, and they're very grim numbers. No university wants to lose valuable staff, but there's just no way of making ends meet without doing that at this stage. So every single university around the country is making really tough decisions.
Pay cuts?
Well, every university is trying to negotiate this the best way they can. In some cases, they're putting to their staff pay reductions. In some cases, they've got voluntary redundancy schemes. All of them are cutting back all capital works, every other bit of expenditure they can possibly stall or cut back. Many are talking to banks about loans.
And conversations with the unions at the moment, are they cooperating? Is it being accepted? Where is that at the moment?
I'm afraid, Peter, we are not the peak body who has anything to do with unions. That's an entirely separate body, so I'm afraid I just can't comment on that. I know everyone in the sector is trying to do their best, though.
What is it that you need? In your latest conversation with the Education Minister, what sort of assurances are you receiving?
So, look, Dan Tehan has been very supportive in a whole lot of ways. We're having a good conversation about how it is we can make sure universities are ready when borders open and international students can come back in. I think he understands international students are very obedient, will follow rules absolutely to the letter, so they're a good bet if we're talking about some sort of early border opening for them, so that's very important. We're also having constructive conversations about how we make more places available for domestic students. This is so important. History tells us that during recessions what people want to do is study, and at universities we're seeing early, very strong signs of increasing domestic demand. The last thing you want is to have people with, frankly, nothing useful to do at a time when they cannot get a job.
How many more places would you like to make available?
Look, that really is a matter for discussion, and it's early signs yet for us. We're seeing strong early signs of additional demand, but we would like to be able to meet that demand.